Let's gather around.
Learn stretching.
We'll talk about stretching for a little bit. This is a bit of a lie. It's bait and switch. I will show you a bit of stretching at the end. We'll do a couple of upper arm stretches. What I'm going to talk about mostly today is what stretching is and why. Why are we doing it? Why should we care, right? Like somebody says, you should go stretch. I'm like, okay, I'll do this thing. I'm bored of it now. I'll go fight. Ow, it hurts. Like, why? I want you to understand why we're doing the thing so that you can go do your own research and feel empowered to find things that work for you. We'll also talk about common ideas of stretching and a better way to do it, which you can also find on the internet or a smart significant other. So, what is stretching even? Like when we talk about stretching, what is it? Are we stretching bones, skin, soles? There are three major components that we'll think about today. There are muscles, which do stretch because they're made of stretchable cells from simply. Tendons, which generally connect muscles to bones. Think of your Achilles tendon. It connects your muscle to your bones. Okay, and ligaments, which connect bones to bones, right? Your ACL, right? Anterior, it's in front of you. Cruciate, it's super important. And ligament, it connects your bones together so your shit doesn't rotate, okay? Ligaments and tendons typically do not stretch, and there's a reason for this. Around all of this stuff, inside and out of it, there's another term you may have heard called fascia. It's just generally it's stuff. It's poorly scientifically understood, and it's amazing business. It likes water a lot, and when it is hydrated, it will slide along itself, and it basically kind of wraps around all of our muscles and tendons and bones, keeps everything together. Anybody know what? Anybody heard of the IT band? What that is, right? Yeah, it's along it. So the iliotibial band, it runs from your iliac crest down to your tibia, and it connects all the muscles of it. It helps us stand. Babies, and stay with me for this, are born without an IT band. They have no IT band. Over time, learning to stand and walk, it develops. So we believe now that there's evidence to suggest that tendons and ligaments are formed along stress lines from the fascia that surrounds muscle as we grow, right? Which is relevant to what we're going to talk about, because any way that we position ourselves, the reason we get stuck in positions, if we do this all the time, the reason that we get stuck here is because of muscle shortness, but also because of the way that fascia tends to mold our bodies over time, so that we become literally stuck in these kinds of positions. Or if we have desk jobs and we sit on our butts literally become pancaked together, and our tendons and muscles can't move. Why is that relevant for stretching? Well, if our muscles are the things doing the moving, if everything else is connected to the muscle, it becomes inefficient to move the muscle, but then we're also trying to move the whole rest of our body. It's like we've literally duct taped our body to the rest of the muscle that we're trying to move. So when someone says, or rather when you develop muscle pain or muscle shortness, many times that is also connected to altered length, altered movement, poor movement patterns, which are resulting from that fascia getting stuck together. Is everyone with me so far? Excellent, wonderful. So, that is what's going on when we stretch, okay? So what's the theory behind stretching? Well, we can stretch the muscles, but not the tendons, which is why if you're stuck in a certain way and you do this really quickly, right, there are two things going on. One, the muscles will tear or the tendons will tear, and that's bad. If we do it slowly, what happens is there are a few, I took my watch off. Well, if I go over like 15 minutes, maybe wave at me. There are a few mechanisms in the body, and these are real things. There are organelles in your cells that sense when something has been tightened, and they retract in on themselves, right? Which is why we have to spend a little while stretching if we're doing static stretching to make that stretch worthwhile. So this is why we stretch. The idea behind stretching. Someone says, okay, your muscles are short. The reason that they stay short is because it's an evolutionary advantage. Say I had a bicep and I wanted to go from here to here. If my muscle were like 3 inches longer, it'd have to contract a whole crap ton before this actually moved, which is why muscles only stay as short as they are, which is why if we spend time like this, we get stuck like this because of our fascial lines and all this business, and our muscles get short. That also means that muscles are only as long as they need to be, which means that if I'm stuck like this, and I go to throw a shot, and I'm extending further than my muscles and tendons can go, okay, I have the potential to, A, both pull a muscle, because my muscles are only as short as they need to be, and again, pull the tendons from the aforementioned length-tension relationships we're talking. Is everyone still, any questions so far? Does this not make sense at all? Fabulous. So, when we stretch, back up. So there's all, inside of that as well, you can say that your muscles are tight. What does it mean to have a tight muscle? Well, it means a few things. One, it means that your muscles are either too short or too long, and what you're trying to do is putting tension on them. If my muscles are too long, and I'm trying to do something with them, typically they're all stretched out and they're weak, and they're going to be tight because they're weak. Okay, if they're too short and I'm trying to do stuff, they're going to be too tight because they're short and I want them to extend, and they're not going to extend. Right? So we have tight muscles. It's because those muscles have an altered length-tension relationship, and we need to do something about that. Or we have tight muscles because there's a bunch of fascia pulling on them in different directions. Okay? Or we have tight muscles because one muscle is weak and the other muscle is strong. So sometimes, and this will lead directly into the stretching. I'm just laying the background for everybody. Sometimes muscles are tight or weak, or we feel like we need to stretch a thing, when in fact it's because we are not actively activating other parts of our body. So, who feels like they have super tight hamstrings? Anybody? That feels like getting down on the ground floor? Anybody? Anybody? Try that? Awesome. All right, cool. So, why don't you lay down on the ground? All right, so, may I touch your body?
Absolutely.
Great. So, no, I'm just kidding.
I didn't say stop.
All right. So, Tarlock here, I want you dead weight, super dead weight, just dead weight. So, he runs out of space. Relax. Don't try and help. People try and help. Don't try and help. So it feels like he kind of runs out of space around. That's not bad, actually. That's not so bad. Anybody? All right.
I can beat that.
Yeah, come here.
That's
Thank you,
I'm like Gumby, what are you talking about?
Gregoire, overachieving.
Suddenly a Marquette has entered.
All right, nice and relaxed, super relaxed. Oh, man. There we go. So this is kind of where he stops, right? So this is where he stops. All right. I want everybody to take a note of this particular angle. Right? It's 45-ish, right? Charles, can we see this on the?
Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend your knee up this way. Okay, I'm going to push this way on your knee. Your job, you're going to take a big breath in when I say go, over like a 4 or 5 count, actually, as about that time. You're going to squeeze your abs as hard as you can, exhale really hard, and try and drive your knee to your forehead. It's going like this. Big breath in. You're going to drive your knee to your forehead. My job is going to be to push away. I'm going to push hard. All right, here we go. 3. Relax. 2. Big breath in. More. Big breath. Come on. And push. Exhale. Squeeze your belly. Squeeze. Push. Harder. And relax. Relax. We do this 4 times. I really want to hear it. Big breath in. Squeeze your abs. Squeeze. Exhale. Squeeze. Crunch up. Squeeze. 2. And relax. Good. One more time. 3, 2.
I feel
Inhale.
like this is doing
Inhale.
crazy.
Exhale. Go. Squeeze. 2. And relax. Okay, here we go. What? Look at that. Now, why did this happen? Why? Did the breathing and the contraction lengthen his hamstring that was so tight? No, certainly not. A muscle would never stretch that far. Thank you, you can get up. What happened was, in fact, Gregoire has a desk job, or he's bent over some science equipment. He doesn't use his abs as much as he should. Humans' abs, primates' abs, are erect bipedal frame. Our core is meant to hold us upright. Okay? Consciously, he doesn't know that. His body does. He wants to stand, so what happens is his hips have recruited themselves to help him stand. Okay? Abs turn off, hips turn on to help him stay. This is not how you look, right? Hips turn on. What happens is everything gets tight, and then Gregoire comes over and goes, screw you, Tarlock, I have the tightest hamstrings ever. When in fact, he doesn't have the tightest hamstrings ever. He just has, like many of us, a weak core. And magically, and this is still not exactly understood by science, although look it up because it's amazing, as soon as you turn on the muscles that are supposed to be turned on, the rest of them turn off immediately. And it's fascinating, right? So, why do we stretch? We stretch because either we're stuck in a certain position, generally because we're stuck in a certain position and it feels tight according to what we're trying to do. What is that caused by? Either altered length relationships in either of some of our muscles or just straight up injury from our muscles, altered length and poor movement patterns from how we sit or what we do, such that our fascia has been molded, and we are molded, especially if we are dehydrated, right? We're literally glued together. So that's why we want to stretch, okay? So what do we stretch? Well, we stretch them either, we stretch the muscles themselves, or we activate other muscles to allow other muscles to stretch. Does that make sense? Cool.
Does
So,
now.
what?
I said it does now.
Awesome. Great, so we're going to follow that up with some actual stretches, okay? And then you can follow this up with some other stuff at home. The standard methodology of stretching is what's called a static stretch, where, the hurdle stretch, and you kind of hold this stretch, right? Have you ever seen somebody do that, or if you ever go to a class where they're like, okay, stretch, good, now let's stretch again, good, ready to go? No, they don't know what they're doing. And that's okay, because a lot of us don't really know what we're doing all the time. We just kind of make it look like we do. A muscle from that aforementioned stretch tension response needs to sit for at least 20 seconds. So if you're going to do a static stretch, you want to sit there for at least 20 seconds if you're going to hold this stretch, if you're going to hold a hurdler stretch, if you're going to do a chair pigeon. By the way, if you have specific things that you want to ask me a question about, please come over to me later. I'd be happy to answer your questions. But if you're going to do a static stretch, you absolutely need to hold those stretches for at least 20 seconds to a minute. Okay? We've all done static stretches before. Now that you understand what's going on when you do a static stretch, your muscle lets itself release, and then you can move your fascial lines. You can do that in an informed fashion, so hopefully it will carry you forward. There's another better, yes?
How often does it take to restructure your fascial lines into something else?
Yeah, it depends on what you do, like how hydrated you are. I mean, everybody is different, which is also why there are a lot of diets around, because every diet is different, because every body is different. So you definitely want to do your research, and don't listen to people whole hog who are here telling you what they think.
But you can't change the way it's structured.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's the point. And there's a lot of really crazy and amazing stuff out there.
So you could find your toes.
I'm going to follow up with a couple of shoulder stretches, okay, using one of the most effective techniques. It's called active isolated stretching, okay, based on everything I just talked about, okay, based on a principle called reciprocal inhibition. So what that means is, if this muscle is tight, I'm going to squeeze this one to get deeper into that stretch. So what does that mean? That means if I'm trying to stretch my hamstring, squeeze my quad, okay, and that allows this muscle to turn off so that I can get deeper into the stretch. I'm not actually pulling myself down forward. This muscle turns on, evolution turns this muscle off so that we can get into it, okay? That's reciprocal inhibition. So we're going to use that technique to do what's called active isolating stretches, which are the stretches that you can do in your office or are easier to do. So, let's say you're sitting down or standing up. Normally, you'd hold a stretch for like a minute getting bored, right? I want to go fight. This is what we're going to do. So, chair stretch. Normally, we all sit like this. You can do this. There are two great stretches I'm going to show you for our upper body, for fencing or moving or whatever. So, this is a simple shoulder stretch, okay? And this is how active isolated stretching works. So, you're going to take your hands here. The idea is we're going to stretch our chest. Everybody knows what this feels like, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to get a good stretch in. That's great. Okay, good, I'm good to go. No. When you first stretch, about 2.5 seconds into that, about 2.5 seconds into that first stretch, that stress response, the Golgi tendon apparatus kicks in, and you're going to squeeze, it'll squeeze back on you, okay? So we're going to do 8 to 10 reps, okay? Just 2 seconds, and then relax. 2 easy seconds, and relax, okay? 8 to 10 times. So we're here nice and tall. First, take a lunge step, real quickly, right? Okay, the reason for this, anytime you do an upper body stretch, I see this all the time. We're stretching, and I'll do it in different directions. Yeah, I'm stretching. Yeah, I'm stretching. This is terrible. You're not actually moving your body. You're just moving the muscles because the fascial lines here don't want to move, so you're moving your body. right? So lunge stretch, you're like, yeah, look at this deep ass lunge I'm getting. Yeah. I've actually bent my whole body. My hip is in no better position than it was here, right? So I find lunge positions helpful so you can track where your hips are, okay? So tuck your hips ever so slightly. Great, now we're good to go. Arms out, gentle just to the point of stretching, and then come back. 1, 2, ease into it, and then come back. While you're doing this, I want you to squeeze your shoulder blades back and forward. I want you to really feel that shoulder release. Come back. 4, and every time you should get a little bit further away. What this is also doing is helping to move that fascia around, bring water, okay, into your intracellular matrix, into the fascial cavities. Okay, and this is a much more active or a much more effective stretch, right? 2 more, than actually
Counting?
well, I was kind of in my hands. Good. Okay, that is a demonstration of that isolated. We're going to do 1 more, and then we're going to all go fighting. So, wall angels, which are amazing. So again, your lunge step, okay? These are only 2. There are so many, and I really wanted to get into some lower body, but I'm not going to take I'm not going to take a fighter time. So, lunges, you go here. For this, you really want to tuck your tail in. Up, hold for 2 seconds, and then down. Yeah, up, 2, down.
Yes, I did do Mark
Up.
yesterday.
Good. Keep going. Don't do what Zygmunt is doing. Okay? Shoulders down and elbows up. Try and get to here. Okay? Back and then down. That's good. Down. Good. Every time this happens, drive your shoulders a little bit further down and your elbows a little bit further up. Don't expect to be perfect when you stretch. We're stretching because we're looking to get to that perfect place. So it helps when you're in front of a mirror, right? Here, I'm dipping down, that's okay. Don't go too far. 8 to 10 repetitions, 2 seconds each. Much more effective, much more mentally engaging than static stretching, and has further benefits as well, like moving the fascia, like being gentle with our muscles, okay? So that we are encapsulating everything that I just talked about into the whys of stretching. Any questions?
Does massage help with cycles of stretching?
Hugely.
Okay.
In 30 seconds or less, massage or myofascial release, right? Myo, muscles, fascia, we just talked about, release. Fascia gets pancakes together. There's a theory that if you've got a knot, which is that kind of fascial,
Sticking points.
yes, thank you, sticking points, that really you're just tightening the knot by stretching. There's research out there that suggests that. So if you know any massage movements or trigger points, or like you want to get in there and you can release that tension first. Thank you. You get in there and you can release that tension first before you stretch. Okay? Stretching can be done at any point, at any time, if done properly. Don't let anybody tell you that if you stretch beforehand, you will do worse at the sport you're doing. That's not true. That's only at super high level athletes, like power lifters and like crazy Olympic. There's a slight noticeable decrease in power output, but that's not what we're talking about. Stretching is always appropriate. It's always a good idea. And if you can combine that with a little bit of myofascial release, a little bit of foam rolling, whatever, beforehand, that's something better. Huh? Get yourself a foam roller or a buddy. Any questions, you guys?
Or the scraper.
Thank you for paying attention to me. I'm sure I went over time. Have fun.